Today on the Pitchbook Podcast, we have Todd Bauerle, who is pitching Into the Magic Shop by Dr. James R. Doty. Batter up! Todd, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
I am excited to be here.
We got to tell quickly, this is funny because a lot of times we have people we know on the podcast. Zach, this is a referral. Zach, why don't you tell us how you met Todd or how Todd is on the show?
All right, so Todd is a fellow Eagle Mountainite in Eagle Mountain, Utah. And are you friends with Craig Whiting? So Craig's been on the podcast a couple times. Or you just know Craig or went to lunch with him.
I am a constituent. I am somehow an involved constituent of Eagle Mountain. I'd rather be a keyboard warrior, but somehow became physically involved in meeting candidates and meeting Craig. And he wanted to speak with me and meet with me, and we got together over lunch and had a kind of a marathon lunch, edifying one another about our personal histories, about interests and concerns about the city and life and business in general, and talked about books and philosophy and things like that. And he says, you know what? You should look up this guy, Zach. He's got this podcast called Pitch Book, and you should share that book with him. So I texted you, I think that evening, and here
Yeah,
we are just a few
yeah.
days later.
Awesome. So are you from Utah? Did you grow up here? Or you're a Detroit Tigers fan from
Right.
Detroit?
I was born in Michigan, and my family, after the kind of the recession in the late 70s and 80s, moved to Arizona. So I technically grew up more in Arizona, met my wife down there, but we moved up unbelievably 20 years ago to Utah and moved out here to Eagle Mountain in 2009. And so
Oh,
we've been here since then, raised all of our children here. And for if no one knows Eagle Mountain, it's kind of a dusty little city. And it was teeny tiny ish kind of when we moved out here in 2009. And it's becoming this sprawling, slightly less dusty place that I have somehow fallen in love with. And it's hard to believe, our home here, when we had one child and moved in who was less than a year old, we thought it'd be a starter home, but now we've got three, and they're all far older than I would like them to be. And so I don't know that we're ever going to leave at this point in time, but who knows what the future holds.
It happens fast. Why Eagle Mountain? So did you move straight to Eagle Mountain from Arizona or somewhere else in Utah?
No, actually, so my degree is in family and human development. My goal was to become a marriage and family therapist. It didn't really work out that way. But my wife and I got a job working for a nonprofit, and we had a live-in foster group home, like therapeutic group home parent situation up in the Kearns area.
Hmm.
And we did that for several years. We
Okay.
were taking care of kids that were adjudicated living in that situation. And we did that for several years. We opened up another group home in Riverton, and we got pregnant, like you do, after we've been married for a while. And that was just not sustainable with raising a family. And
Yeah.
so it was after the housing crisis in 2008. It was actually 2009 when we moved in. And, we had the housing credit and everything like that. And looking around at continually falling housing prices, Eagle Mountain was nice and remote. It was away from so many people. It was a pleasant drive away from the city. And those are all the reasons why we moved here. And now we're overrun and sitting in traffic and all of those
Yeah.
things.
So now all the people followed you and now the traffic follows you. So good job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. The people that complain about the drive out in Eagle Mountain, I feel like they have no right to, because I drove out here when it was two lanes of traffic and you played chicken with oncoming traffic over the little canal bridge that couldn't really fit two cars at once. So I feel like I've earned my stripes.
Yeah. I remember the night that there was that blizzard and I just slept at my sister-in-law's house because couldn't get home. It was crazy.
Back
All
when
right.
we had snow. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Todd, that's some great background. And so you've been here for 20 years, which is crazy. It's crazy how time flies. So tell us a little bit about You obviously from your the back of you behind you, you obviously read a lot of books. Why did you pick? And you're talking to Craig. Why pick Into the Magic Shop? What is it? What I guess what is it about? What is the? How did you hear about this book? What tell us a little about before you get into the meat of the book.
Well, I'll explain my bookshelf in the background. So I've clearly read a lot, and I have a whole nother, three shelves up there, and I've got more upstairs. I've read a lot of them nonfiction, a lot of them fiction as well. I've got my action figures and my Back to the Future DeLorean, and like all other kind of geeky things around here. So I'm a bit of a nerd, and that's cool. Um, but what I do for work is I'm a coach. I'm a coach in mindset, help people with their life and their business and success. So I read like crazy. And this isn't something I necessarily chose. Like I said, I wanted to work in marriage and family therapy, but this is the path that sort of I took myself. I was more a career coach, but just a little bit of backstory, and this is maybe why the book resonates with me as well. In 2015, my wife was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Um, it
Really?
was kind of a surprise, like I think all of those things are. It was something called a meningioma, which was not cancerous, but it was something that she had to be rushed in for surgery to have it removed within 24 hours, and it dramatically changed our lives. Um, I was working for the state of Utah at the time. I was a career coach. She was continuing to work for that nonprofit agency as a foster care consultant, and she hasn't been able to work since then.
Hmm.
I hired my own coach shortly thereafter because I was earning $35,000 a year, and it was pretty much impossible to care for a family of three and a disabled wife and take care of the mortgage and try to have any kind of future. So I hired a coach and quit my job, worked for myself, coaching other people through careers, and then uh, found a love in mindset, the idea that we become what we think about. So I've read all kinds of books, Think and Grow Rich, stuff by Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, one of my favorite books. The Science of Getting Rich is a book that profoundly changed me. Neville Goddard's book, The Power of Awareness, absolutely changed me on a profound level. And I've taught these books as well. I became a Bob Proctor consultant. If you guys have ever heard of Bob Proctor from the movie The Secret, he had a book in 1985 called
Mm-hmm.
You Were Born Rich. Uh, Over the pandemic, when we're all locked away at home and have some sort of introspection, my business grew incredibly. I have 460 some thousand followers on TikTok. I mean, my business blew up globally. There was a week where I talked to someone on every single major continent in a single week. I mean, it was kind of amazing. Um, Needless to say, I've read a whole lot. This is the book that I tell everybody that they need to read. And it only came into my awareness within the last year. And I only just read it within the last month. Well, maybe 6 weeks now. Every single client I'm working with right now, I have hit them over the head with it and said, you have to read this book right now and binge read it.
Hmm.
It is that powerful. In fact, I'll read the subtitle. So the book is Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's quest to discover the mysteries of the brain and the secrets of the heart. And James R. Doty, MD, actually just passed away this summer, um, which just makes me emotional because I have my own podcast, which has been inactive for about a year. But when I was reading his second book this summer, which is where I started, I was so moved and blown away by that book. I thought I need to have this guy on my podcast. And when I found out he passed away, it kind of broke my heart a little bit.
Sorry,
Reading this,
let me interrupt you there. Sorry.
please.
So you read his a different book from him before Into the Magic Shop. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, this is his second book, Mind
Okay.
Magic.
Okay. Got it. Okay, go on. So you wanted to have him on the podcast. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but
Yeah. And
go
it
on.
kind of broke my heart. So it was his second book that caught my attention. Actually, it was a podcast interview that he did with Mel
Hmm.
Robbins. Actually, I think it was November a year ago. So it was probably a year ago.
Hmm.
And I listened to it and it changed the way that I thought about manifestation and creating your life. I mean, his second book, Mind Magic, the subtitle is The Neuroscience of Manifestation and How It Changes Everything.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know, how familiar are you guys with the idea of the law of attraction, manifestation, we become what we think about? I'm curious.
I'm familiar with it. I like the idea of the secret stuff, but I'm a big fan of that you have to follow it up with action and work. So I think some people, this is my opinion, get stuck in like, oh, if I just think about this, it's going to happen. I'm a big application, like what you learn and how you apply it to your life and your goals. I'm a big Brian Tracy guy. I love goals and goal setting, and to me, that's where the action part behind believing in what you can get, or you know what I mean, or going after what you can get. What do you want to get? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I think for me, so I'm a financial planner, Todd. That's what I do for my vocation, and mm, I think the bigger the goal you set, just a crazy huge goal, you start talking about it and you start dreaming and thinking about it and getting your team on board with this big idea. And for me, things start to unlock, opportunities start to unlock. I would say I'm a big believer of the cosmic bank, which is an imaginary bank that you make deposits into. You help people, you do the right thing without any expectation of any kind of return. And you're constantly making these deposits. And then every once in a while, you get this amazing withdrawal out of nowhere that you weren't anticipating or you weren't thinking about. There's not really any accounting in this bank other than you just make deposits, you get withdrawals. And so I've kind of attached this set of big goal that seems kind of unattainable and then just go to work, to Matt's point, making the deposits. So there you go.
I like
That's
I like the idea, Zach, of like the cosmic guy with the green hat on. Yeah, looks like Zach just did something good. All right, one more thing, and he's getting something big. Like that's what
it's true
the
though,
cosmic
because
accountant.
you just cast good out there. You do good things, you help people. A lot of financial planners, they don't want to meet with somebody in their 20s, as you mentioned, Todd. They don't have any money. Why would I spend time with them? But for me, I think I'm going to help this kid out. I'm going to get him on the path, saving, investing, doing the right thing. It's like that starfish that, well, I saved that one, you know? And you do a lot of those meetings. I mean, this year I think I've done over 900 meetings, and it's been a record year for our team. We've had amazing growth. So that's my mindset. I don't know if that's a good summary or if that helps, but if you're positive, you're outgoing, you help people. I don't know if that's the law of attraction, but you tend to attract good things back versus focusing on the negative. You start to attract the negative in your life.
Yeah,
But if
absolutely.
you could expand on that,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
awesome too.
For our listeners, maybe why don't you give a quick high level, and then you can dive in a little bit, Todd.
That'd be great.
Well, I mean, I think you've kind of summarized it, you know. I mean, whether you call it the law of karma or the law of attraction, I mean, it's this idea of do good and good comes back to you. Um, and I mean, here's the thing. There's there is more to our reality. There's more to being human. There's more to our consciousness than we can really explain, right? And we want to believe in more. I think that the nature of being alive is filled with a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions, and that's part of the excitement. It's also part of the like sheer terror and scary part of being alive. Um, and we could talk about all the mysticism and things like that. And it's really falling into the realm of pseudoscience, which I'm okay. I love the woo woo. I love the mystical. I love the magical. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I'll tell you this. And so I'm still a Bob Proctor coach. Bob Proctor was in the movie The Secret. Some people would argue maybe he's the star of The Secret. He passed away in 22, unfortunately. Um, and which was really hard for me. And I was one of his top consultants. I earned his little special pin from him. I mean, it doesn't really matter to the people outside of maybe that community that maybe know him. In fact, as I zoom out, I've got a little picture of him kind of like up above here with me. I
Oh, okay.
actually brought my pin down here and stuff like that. But, um, he would often say, if you can hold it in your mind, if you can hold a goal or a dream vividly in your mind, you can hold it in your hand. You can experience it. And I've had that. I mean, I've had so many experiences that I couldn't explain to you rationally, except in the way that you did. But here's the thing. I have coached hundreds of people in this. And I wish I could say I've had great outcomes with everybody, but I haven't. And why? And I'll say that in fact, since Bob's death, I was brought into his company. I was hired to coach his consultants. One of the highlights of my life, professionally, even was taking his place and doing some of the final global calls for the coaching program that we did. It's over my shoulder, called Thinking into Results. I did Q3 and 4 global calls in 2023 before they discontinued them. Those were calls that he used to do before he passed away. Um, he often said, I think we've got better results than most people with our clients, but they're not good enough. Why? And here's the reason why. And I'll get back to the book, why the book is so important. Whether we're talking about the law of attraction or any other kind of pseudoscience, hypnotism, I mean, religion's a pseudoscience. Anything that doesn't have scientific proofs, there's a question mark because we just don't know for certain. We can't explain exactly how it works. If someone is struggling with mental health challenges, if someone is struggling with a weak self-image, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. If they have anxiety, if they have depression, the I don't know is like quicksand to get stuck in. It's an opportunity for negative self-talk to kind of go crazy. It's a place for your self-worth to sort of magnify, and you get to eat yourself alive. And I've seen so many people that I've worked with who put their last dollar into a hope and a prayer that has a weak foundation.
What, let me
It's
pause
not
you there. What do you mean by that?
very likely.
What's their so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
The idea that I could put good out and good comes back to me, that's not certain.
sure, no, I understand that. What I'm saying is like they're putting money. You're saying they're in my mind, like the mindset is like, here's something I want to accomplish or something, maybe financially. But they're what do you mean their foundation wasn't good?
So in coaching in the world, so you're going to find that I am probably radically too honest, probably for my own good. There's some challenges in the coaching industry, high ticket coaching industry. People are paying 50, 60, $100,000 a year to get really high ticket coaching.
Hmm.
Um, and there are people that are desperate to change their lives and they're spending a ton of money
Hmm.
on some of this stuff. And there's a lot of people making wild, fantastical promises to people
Hmm.
that they can't back up.
Gotcha.
Mm.
They really can't. I paid $30,000 to become a Bob Proctor coach. I'm
Hmm.
grateful I did it. I mean, I was a coach before. I was pretty darn good at what I was doing, helping people get better jobs. I was helping people triple their income legitimately with a W-2 employment. Um, I was already in the field of mental health. I know this is what I should be doing. But there were a lot of people that probably shouldn't be coaches that were paying that, hoping to get something big. And honestly, there was maybe 1 or 2% of people that were paying that
Hmm.
that would actually get a return on their investment.
Gotcha.
So there are people that were paying that kind of money expecting to have this windfall and become millionaires, and it just wasn't the case.
Hmm.
And so there were people that like we were coached with these sayings like the more you pay, the more you pay attention.
Hmm.
That's something that sounds really good for me to say so that I can charge you $10,000 to work for 6 months with me. And it's something that on the other side sounds really good to convince you to open up your pocketbook and pay that. but I also can't back it up when I say, if you just believe hard enough and raise your frequency and vibration, you'll attract the money that you want. There's nothing to back that up with. Does
Yeah,
that
so
make
and that's why I'm a bit skeptical. I kind of feel
sense?
like I'm in between, like the oh let's believe whatever, and I'm more like, Kate, let's write the goal down. Here's the steps that you need to do to accomplish it. Let's break it down and then try to do those consistently. Does that make sense? Like that's why I'm
Totally.
in between the pseudoscience and the work part. If that makes
And
sense.
so, to Bob Proctor's credit, he always said the problem with The Secret is that people watch The Secret or read the book and they miss out on the action part.
Yeah, I agree.
And so he would say that the law of attraction is a secondary law. Really, the law of cause and effect is primary. There's a cause and an effect,
Hmm.
right? If I were to take this and drop it, this is the cause, and the effect is it drops by the law of gravity, and I've got to catch it. Well, here's the thing. This is a neuroscientist, Dr. James Doty, that wrote Into the
Right.
Magic Shop. He's a neuroscientist, and he believes in manifestation.
Hmm.
He's also an atheist, or
Hmm.
probably more of an agnostic.
Hmm.
So he has no belief in a higher power. He doesn't believe in mysticism. He doesn't believe in the law of attraction, and yet he believes in manifestation.
Hmm.
Close that gap for me.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So that's why I'm interested because you can tell my skepticism a little bit with the secret type of stuff, but I do believe in goals and I think if you set your mind to something, there are doors. The cosmic accountant is up there saying, okay, here's a door. More that you recognize opportunities that you may not have recognized because you have that goal or that you're trying to manifest that, so to speak. Does that make sense? So I'm curious to see how the neuroscience fits with that.
So here's his story. He grew up in poverty. Dr. James Doty. His father was an alcoholic, an abusive alcoholic. His mother was a drug addict and suicidal. She had suffered a stroke when she was very young, when he was young. Um, and because there was so much conflict in the home, he would escape that. He'd jump on his bike in the 60s and he would leave. He'd climb up a tree, to run away, or he'd jump on his bicycle and he'd ride as far and as fast away as possible. And one summer, he found himself at a strip mall and he was went into a magic shop because he had an interest in magic, as a kid does, making coins disappear. And he actually had this little plastic thumb. And just to tell you, just to read in chapter 1 here, the very first line. This is how good of a storyteller he is. He says, Lancaster, California, 1968. The day I noticed my thumb was missing began like any other day the summer before I started eighth grade. Right? Like, how great is that? By the way, when I finished this book, I ordered 4 copies, 3 for my children and 1 for my wife, and said, we are reading this together as a family. And when we started reading this, like my now 15-year-old, who just had his birthday this month, was like, he couldn't get past the first, what happened to his thumb? What happened? Read the book. Let's read. You're going to find out, right? He's talking about a little plastic magic thumb.
Sure, right.
And so he finds this magic shop and he goes in and there's this woman there, wearing this flowy muumuu, who's got her glasses on the tip of her nose and her long hair, and looks up at him and says, "Can I help you?" And she knew nothing about magic. She was the owner's mother, and started talking with young Jim, and says, "Well, I don't know anything about magic thumbs or any of this stuff, but I like you. I think I can help you. If I'm going to be here for the next 6 weeks, if you come back every day, I can teach you some things that can help you." And she taught him some real magic. She taught him mindfulness and manifestation practices that changed his life, that helped him become a neurosurgeon, that helped him become a multimillionaire, that helped him completely turn his life around. Now, that would be a great story in and of itself. But in the dot-com crisis, he lost it all. He lost $80 million overnight.
Wow.
And then he got it all back. In the end, he was the chairman of the Dalai Lama Foundation. He founded Sea Care at Stanford. Um, Sea Care is the Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education. He has been he has been friends with, like I said, the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu, Eckhart Tolle, some of the great
Hmm.
Byron Katie, some of the greatest spiritual teachers out there. He found all this kind of material wealth, but it didn't really satisfy him. He lost it all. So he was miserable, lost it all, and then found true deep meaning and purpose, all because of what this woman, Ruth, taught him over a 6 week period of time in 1968. And he taught him the real power of manifestation. And what he learned, because he wanted to become a doctor, he wanted to become a doctor because he thought that was what success was. People are going to look up to me. I will have self worth then at that point in time, right? He learned about the brain because he was a neurosurgeon. He learned about goal setting, embedding goals into your subconscious. He learned about these parts of the brain that work to help you achieve, to help you change your life. He learned the practical neuroscience of manifestation. And what does he want to do? He wants to teach that to other people to help them change their lives. And the book is written in such a way that you can't help but be moved, not just by his story of coming from such tragic circumstances to such highs to losing that and recovering it. You can't read that and look at your own life and go, well, what can I do?
Mm.
What can I become? And you can't have anything but hope for your own life. And the last thing I'll say to sink the hook on this book is he breaks down steps on what you can do to start implement these magic tricks that Ruth taught him so that you can start implementing it yourself. And I have started practicing it. And some of the stuff I think led to this great conversation with Craig, which leads to this, which leads to this little bracelet I've got, Han. Like there's all kinds of these weird synchronicities that have happened to me since reading this, which have actually pulled me out of a challenging place that I've been in since my mentor, Bob, has passed away, since I've been disillusioned with some of the toxic aspects of my own industry in high ticket culture of this coaching industry that I'm in.
Mm.
I've seen dramatic changes in the few weeks since I read the book.
It's really
It'll change your life.
it's really interesting. So a couple questions for you, Todd. I'd love to hear maybe some of the magic tricks in the book and just what's your definition of manifestation and how would you define it and how do you, I mean, without giving away all of your secrets or tricks, how would you
I'll give
go
them all.
about?
I don't really care.
Okay,
I'm here
great.
to
Well,
help.
whatever you feel like you could share on what is manifestation, what are some
Well,
tips or things that help people to reach their goals? Is it luck? Is it habits and strategy? Is it
Zach's going to manifest just asking one question at a time right now. So, what's your definition of manifestation, Todd?
Well, let's start there. What is manifestation? Well, actually, I'm going to back up. I'm going to say you said, is it luck? Well, luck is a word that we invented to explain the known effects of unknown causes. Now, that's not my definition. That's something Bob Proctor has said, and I'm sure he quoted it from somewhere else, right? Luck is saying, I see this thing, but I can't explain it because I don't know the story behind it. We see overnight success stories and we say they're lucky because we haven't seen the blood, sweat, and tears, the
right?
heartbreak, the tragedy that's gone into the backstory.
Yeah, I
And
agreed.
so, not only that, we are more. So, this is Bob's mentor, Earl Nightingale. would say this: we're more familiar with our own flaws, our own shortcomings than we are with somebody else's. And so we are more likely to look at somebody else and say, well, of course you can do this wonderful thing, but I can't because you don't know all of the terrible things about me and my history. You don't know my shortcomings. You don't know how flawed I am. I could never do those things. And so that's why we think that other people can do something that we can't. And all of that is nonsense. It's BS. We have unlimited potential, each and every one of us, to create and manifest whatever it is that we want if we really decide what we want. Now, back to the definition of manifestation. Let's keep it simple. Manifestation is simply choosing an intention, choosing something that you want to experience. This is something you want to become, something that you want to do, something you want to have. Dreaming it up as a fantasy, something that's not real, something that you don't have right now. It could be something that is kind of likely to happen or something that's impossible. I don't really care. On a scale of 1 to 10 of likelihood, it could be a 10. Impossible. It's never going to happen. Or it could be very likely, number one. It doesn't really matter. But it's something you want to be, do, or have. And you dream it up. And then you make it happen. And the how it happens doesn't really matter. But Matt, to your point, it's going to involve some kind of action. There's something you've got to do. And it might be something massive you have to do, and it might be something small you have to do. I don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what it takes to manifest that thing. But you'll find
So
out.
my 18-year-old daughter, she's in college right now. I said, "What what do you want your life to look like?" She's in, before she's going to college. And she had a really interesting answer to me. She said, "Dad, I want to live in Alpine." Because as a young girl, we were heading to a cheer comp. We were driving through this neighborhood in Alpine to get to this high school, and there's all these giant homes, huge, massive doctors, attorneys, who, whatever.
Yeah,
And so in
totally.
her mind, she's like, Alpine is the place to live, nice homes. And I said, okay, well, what do you need to do to live in Alpine? What kind of income do you think you need to make? So we started just kind of walking through what are those things that she needs to do to get there. Is that manifestation? Is like having the house in Alpine? That's something she doesn't have today. Now we're working on
Absolutely.
the career path to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you start with that end goal. Want to live in Alpine, want to live in a $5.7 million home. Well, what do you start doing? What are you going to do to get there? That's the question. Here's where people get tripped up. They ask they ask the wrong question. How's it going to happen? You don't know how. Nobody knows how. You only know how once you get there. Steve Jobs gave a Stanford address where he says you can only connect the dots looking backwards. That's how you know how, was when you got there. When you start where you're at, you have no idea how, and your brain doesn't know how, so it has no idea to get there. The question that you should ask yourself is what? What can I do? What you're really asking when you say what is, what am I aware of? And you know what? No matter who you are, I don't care who you are on the planet, where you live, what your conditions, what your circumstances are. If you live in total, complete poverty, everybody knows one thing that they can do to make an improvement in their life. Everybody does, no matter how big or small. We keep looking for the biggest thing that we can do to change our life, when really all we need is one small step. We do one small step, and then there's another step that appears. And so when you're saying, well, what kind of income would you need to make? And maybe what kind of profession do you have? All you have to do is look at what you're aware of. Well, I'm aware that I could be a doctor, or I could be a lawyer, or I could own a business, or I could be a YouTube influencer, or I could, all of those are valid. Well, which one would you like to choose? Where we get caught up after that is we like, well, which one's the right one? I don't know. Pick one. It doesn't matter. Pick one. Go as far as you can and then see if you can go further or make a different choice. It doesn't matter. We get so caught up in the right or the wrong choice that we end up making no choice. And then nothing manifests.
Todd,
And
what
then we
about? Oh, sorry.
what it's meant to be.
Finish that
Sorry.
thought. Sorry, finish that thought. Sorry, Todd. What did you
Well,
say?
yeah, if we get caught up in making the right choice or the wrong choice, we make no choice.
Mhm.
And then nothing happens. And then we say, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. It's because you didn't make a decision and you didn't follow up with any action.
So I would argue, and this is maybe an argument question. Some people are too negative, and again, I'm not
100%.
I'm not too mumbo jumbo-y about like or like the unknowns. But I would say that her goal of wanting to live in Alpine, if she believes that she can do it, again, I'm not trying to sound too corny. Then
Yeah.
she'll probably make choices that will get her there if that's kind of like a long-term goal or thought in her head. Whereas there might be people that say, "Oh, I'd love to live in Alpine, but I'll never live there," and that's their mentality
Yep.
for the rest of the next 20 years that she would work towards that goal. Some people are like, well, that's never going to happen. So I'm going to live, in the ghetto of wherever. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense? I'm assuming that the negative manifestation stuff works too. Um, and that's why mindset's probably important. Fair to say?
I mean, no, you're 100% correct. And so part of this, and it's explained, unfortunately, it's explained more in the second book. It's a little bit in the first book because there's a negative self-talk that we're all biased to. I mean, open up your social media. What are you going to see? People complaining. I mean, go go to the Eagle Mountain City Citizens Facebook, right? Like, I mean, come on. We're sitting in traffic. There's something negative going on in the world somewhere. There's something negative that can happen today. And
Yeah.
whatever you focus your attention on expands and it
Yep.
grows. And that's going to take up a larger part of your mind. And we could start talking about all those negativities and how you feel if we start talking about those things is going to impact the next thought that you think. And that thought that you think is going to impact that feeling. And the more that you feel negative, the more that's going to create a negative thought. And that negative thought's going to create a new negative feeling. And that negative feeling creates, and now we're in a thought feeling cycle. And so one of the tricks that Ruth taught was how to break that cycle and start kind of a positive affirmation, a positive self-talk. It's not the first trick that she taught Jim, but it's one of those. Because you're in the second book, he calls it your default mode network. It's this self-referential part of the brain that is like your constant dialogue. If that is not aligned with your goals, and what you said, Matt, like your mindset, if it's negative or positive, that default mode network, if it's not aligned with your goals, you're going to talk yourself out of it. And that is very much dependent on the environment that you grow up in. Now you can change it. It's not flipping a switch overnight. You have to fill your mind with positive information, reading the right books, listening to the right podcasts, going through a program, getting in a group or an environment that is all thinking the same way, working with a coach, finding
Hmm.
spiritual mentors, meditating. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do, but it takes work and it takes effort and it takes discipline, it takes consistency, it takes forgiveness, it takes self-compassion, it takes self-love. But Henry Ford said it, the person that believes they can and the person who believes they can't are both usually right.
Yeah, I would chime in that you probably see a lot of, I'm sure all of us can point to family examples where everyone is essentially raised in the same household but have totally different mindsets and totally different accomplishments, etc. Um, One thing I'm dying to ask you though, Todd, and I bought both books already while we're talking.
Same.
I'm an Audible guy, so I bought them on Audible because I just can't actually read a book. I just listen. But question for you.
Part of the problem, by the way. But anyways, we can talk about that another
Uh,
time.
does he talk about neuroscience or because he's a neuroscientist, I'm assuming he has studies or talks about
Yeah.
like how it actually the physical manifestations in the brain. Does he talk about that stuff?
He does. He does. He gets into that far more in the second book.
Okay.
Absolutely. But he does touch on that in the first book. In fact, even in talking about um again, at the end of each of the chapters, he talks about the tricks. But he doesn't, I mean, this is more of his story. This is his story.
Okay.
The
So the
second
first is
book.
the story, second one's more of the scientific stuff.
Yeah. And if, let me explain the value of the story, though, if I might.
Sure. And give me
And
the order. Do you recommend you read two and one? What order do you recommend?
I recommend Into the Magic Shop first.
Okay, perfect.
And here is why. There is a principle, and it's a physical principle, a law of physics, but it's also a law of neuroscience called entrainment. Entrainment is it's like a principle of alignment. In fact, if I can probably pull up a video and share it because showing this is going to really um, help teach this principle. If I can get, can I get the ability to share a screen
You,
real quick?
that's you, Zach. Can you share or
Well, you're the host.
I am? Oh, try
Just
try to share. Try
co-host, like a
try.
co-host abilities.
Does it not let you share right now?
Hang on just a second. No, it says sharing is not turned on. Send. Oh, I can send a
oh, there
request.
you
I can
go.
send a
Okay, I
request.
just allowed it. Here you go.
Okay. All right. So let me mute this because we don't need to hear this, but I can explain this principle, and this is why it's important. So I'm going to talk about this. Okay, can you guys see this
Yep.
screen here?
Yep.
Okay. So these are 32 metronomes. Okay. And right now, these guys, they're starting, could be guys and gals, I have no idea. They're starting all these metronomes and they're completely out of sync right now. But they're on this foam board and this foam board is suspended. So they're sharing their vibrations back and forth, their oscillations. Okay. They're all out of sync. Entrainment is a principle of vibration where there is a common vibration between these. You're going to see in just a second, this foam board is very slightly going to start moving and vibrating just a little bit. It's going to find the most dominant vibration here. And as it does, all of these metronomes are going to start going in sync. And there's no choice. There's no choice. These metronomes have to go into sync. You can start to see that little oscillation side to side. Now, the same thing happens with your brain waves. When I tell a story, or when you watch a movie, or an author writes a really good story, your brain waves have to follow along and flow in sync. This is why when you watch a movie together in an audience, everybody laughs, everybody cries, everybody, screams at the scary movie all at the same time. And then you go watch the movie at home and you go, haha, this wasn't as funny as I thought. It wasn't as scary. I didn't cry as much when I'm at home. It's because you are in an audience full of people and you shared the same energy. And why I recommend you read this book and you binge read it. Like, don't snack at this book. Try to read it in a week. I read it in 4 days. I couldn't put the book down. It will
Well,
entrain you into his thinking. It will change your energy. It will change your thinking. It will change your feeling about what is possible. And look at this. They are almost all in sync. There's one of them that's just the opposite, off to the side. It has no choice. This is a law of physics. This thing,
it's the negative metronome over there.
yeah, that one, it's got no choice, man. It's got no choice. It is helpless. It will come in sync here. Just a second. Because it's a law. It's a law of physics. It's a law of energy. Bam. There it is. So when you read a really good story, your brainwaves are in sync with the author. And so I recommend that you read Into the Magic Shop and you binge read it. And like I would ignore the sections where it talks about Ruth's tricks and don't even worry about it. Blow through the story. See his ups and his downs, feel his feelings. Let your mind kind of wander into your own life. And then if you do anything, go back to Ruth's trick number one and start practicing that for a week before you do anything else. And if you're curious about the neuroscience, then you can go pick up maybe his second book and read that one and find more of that.
Interesting.
That's why I recommend Into the Magic Shop first.
That's awesome. So the Beach Boys were correct. Good vibrations.
Good vibration.
Here's a random question since you brought up the Beach Boys. Beach Boys or Beatles? Who's better?
I mean, how can you do that, man? Because they all competed against each other. You wouldn't have you wouldn't have Pet Sounds without Rubber Soul, right? But I mean, it's definitely Beatles for me, 100%.
Okay. Zach, you have an opinion?
I'd have to agree. Beatles.
Okay.
There are a few Beach Boys songs that I love, but I think there's many more of the Beatles songs that I just think are better.
I think Beatles pushed the envelope far, far more. Absolutely.
Okay, that was a little sidetrack. Sorry.
No, you can't ask that question and not answer it yourself.
I think the Beatles are overrated. I am, but I will say,
Interesting. You're an English band guy.
I love British bands, and
Yeah,
and
big time.
it's funny because Deja Vega, who people hear on the podcast all the time, the bass player, the Beatles are his favorite band, but he plays nothing like the Beatles. Like they're more like psychedelic rock, and so they're huge over there. Obviously, and I'm not a huge Beach Boys fan either, but I just think, I mean, you kind of, I guess you'd have to go with the Beatles just because they're like kind of like the Godfathers, right? Of guitar music. Um, but my son would argue, our editor would argue that the Beach Boys are better. So there you go. There's four opinions, only one is different. All right, so let's wrap this up. You've convinced us. Both Zach and I bought both books. What is your rating? We always give a baseball rating. What is the rating for this?
This is a grand slam out of the park, without a question.
I love it.
Not only that, because I can do this grand slam out of the park. The crowd goes wild.
This is a grand slam to win Game 7 in the World Series, is what you're saying?
That's exactly right. The Tigers win the World Series, hopefully.
So close this year. All right. Todd, we really appreciate having you on. Thanks so much. That was really interesting. I'm excited to check out these books. I'm kind of curious now, Zach, what is the lowest thing we've had something rated? Like, has there ever been a foul ball, a single? Do you remember?
I think it was a book that you pitched. Are you getting an echo, Matt?
I am, and I don't know why.
Might be maybe the sharing.
I am not.
Okay, well, we're just going to power through because we're almost done.
All right. I don't remember, Matt, but I think it was a book that you pitched that you maybe said was a double.
Really? I feel like there was one that wasn't that great. Maybe it's because you pick a book that you like for come on the show, but
yeah. I've got Into the Magic Shop.
Okay, we'll have to have a follow
way.
up. Todd, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. It's great to meet you. I love that we met in a roundabout way, like someone might say it was magic. So,
absolutely.
hey, appreciate you, and we'll let you know once this is up, and you can share with your group. And appreciate, of course, Deja Vega for providing the music. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the Pitch Book Podcast. We'll catch you next time.